Friday, May 12th, 2017. Fun day today. We have Andrew Simon in studio
This is you.
co-hosting the 2 hours. And then, over the phone, we're going to have Johny Hendricks. And we're going to have John Morgan call in and give us a little update on what's going on in Dallas. Probably one of the biggest cards of... I know, Danny said biggest card of the year. Stacked. Lost a couple fights, but it's still stacked completely. What up, George?
What's with that sly smile?
Other way. There you go.
You got your shades on. Should I be wearing shades?
Yeah.
All right.
Are you gonna wear your shades the whole show?
If you want me to.
I think so.
Do you want me to put on shades? I could be there with you.
Yeah.
All
Let's
right,
do it.
hold on.
You
Let
guys
me
are
get
coming
the
up in a
shades.
minute.
Oh man, I have shades.
You don't have any?
No.
You know there's
But
13-year-olds
that-
out there that are going to be calling us douches.
Oh yeah. And me not having shades opens me up to going. Believe these guys?
I can give you some prescription shades.
Danny, how are you today?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Doing great. It's Friday.
Yeah.
It's hot.
11:30.
All right. So you guys got the latest odds there, right?
Do.
We do.
And all the weigh-ins took place earlier today in Dallas, Texas. And a little bit of a wait and see with Joanna. She did have to come out with the little contraptions like a hula hoop with a towel because the ladies, that's
Which I asked for a long time ago. I referenced the Karate Kid when
Right.
he was a shower curtain. I said,
Right.
why don't they just do that instead of holding that
it
towel?
looks like that's what they're doing. She waited till like 10 minutes left. Everybody else had weighed in. Junior DeSantos came in like 5 minutes before her, but we knew he was going to make weight. He gets to 265.
This is your captain speaking. We are making our descent into Las Vegas McCarran Airport. On behalf of our crew, we'd like to thank you for flying MMAjunkie Airlines. Now please fasten your seatbelts and put your tray tables in your upright position because the descent is going to be a little bit bumpy.
Affliction and prelims on Strike Force and staying up in Japan. Last minute 11th hour deals that were brokered so that we could see great fights along the ways. Plus, everything you've done for the last few years, all the original programming that you guys have had. New Japan's blowing up.
You got it.
Pretty much, I think, 40 to 45 shows on the regional scene.
That's right.
With fighters that have blossomed into great fighters today.
You got it.
And a lot of those were your deals. So wear the shades, my man.
Hey, man,
Anybody
thank
has a
you.
problem with it, give them one of these.
Hey, it's a Friday. It's another fight night on Access, and it's almost 2,500 shows for you today. So, man,
Good,
we've
man.
come a long way from Trig Radio and Trigonomics, and we had Trig as well at one point doing
Living rooms,
commentating.
kitchens.
I mean, we've gone a long way, all of us, and we're still in it. We're still in it.
still
Not a
in
lot
it.
of people have been in MMA for 10 years and have had the ability to do what they love. So,
Yeah,
congrats
this
to
is
you
true.
guys.
No,
You know?
congrats to you as well,
hey,
man.
hey, what a morning. What a morning.
I saw the embedded, and on one of those, Guy Metzger was greeting everybody at his gym. He was the original president and CEO, right? You
Yeah.
wound up replacing Guy Metzger. Is that how it worked out?
No, we didn't really replace. I actually heard from Guy last night, actually.
Oh,
So
okay.
Guy and I have been friends. He was at my wedding. And, when we started all this, Mark had hired Guy Metzger as the guy to help put him together his MMA business. And then,
Right, exactly. So that fight card had 14 fights. It's normally not that long. The most they usually go is 13. They are now down to 12. Filling in for Cejudo and Pettis will be Christoph Jotko and David Branch. David Branch coming over from the World Series of Fighting. He was with the UFC. He went to the World Series of Fighting, resurrected his career, you could say, became their middleweight and light heavyweight champ. It definitely developed some skills, so this is going to be a good fight against Christoph Jotko.
If going back to the previous fight, if it is food poisoning, it's a little different. Usually that's something we hear about in Brazil or when they go to China, right? Or Diego ordering steak tartare. How do you do that at this point, at this level? Like, aren't you super careful of everything you put in your system going into the end?
Well, you've been in many a
Sure.
hotel. Have you ever gotten sick from hotel food or?
well, sure. I
Yeah?
mean, well, you know what? I mean, it depends. I mean, to your point, there was always the stories in Japan that you should bring your own food just in case they do something to your food if you're fighting one of their guys. You
Well,
always
this is
would hear-
domestic, though.
Yeah, domestic, listen, I think it could happen anywhere. I went to a hospitality school undergrad, and foodborne illness is anywhere. It could be just some guy, you think you're eating great vegetables on the road, and some guy doesn't wash his hands, and you eat those vegetables, and you're sick. I mean, so anything could happen. I mean, a lot of people people. I know Dolce probably wasn't he here a couple days
Yesterday,
ago? And
yeah.
yeah, so I mean, I'm sure he has prepackaged food that he plans for fighters that are making weight in the final week, or hopefully he does. And you're bringing in your own food, but in a hotel environment, anything can happen.
That's a good point, though. Dolce would do something like that. And
Right.
I would imagine a fighter would say, but Mike, that's going to cost us more money. I have this little per diem here in the hotel or something. But isn't that where Dolce is saying, yeah, but this has happened to other fighters.
Yep.
Let's not take chances. That's what I'm getting at.
Possibly, yeah.
Well, it's like
I
Stitch. Do you need Stitch? Does Stitch cost extra money? But does he
Yes.
keep a Klitschko going? And again, unbelievable fight. But Stitch, stopped that cut, and he can do
Did a great
things.
job on it,
He
huh?
did an unbelievable job on that cut in that fight, and it made for one of the best heavyweight fights in maybe 20 years, all because of Stitch. And we know
Disappointed the fans that were going to show up for a main event or co-main event or whatever. But on your end, is there that big of a ripple?
if a guy misses or a female misses by a quarter pound and they were struggling and Chris Cyborg falls to the ground and you're watching videos backstage on ESPN, that's one thing. When somebody comes in like a Mayhem Miller at 26 pounds or whatever it was, overweight internationally, or
Can I
when
get the towel?
Yes,
and you look surprised, oh my God, I didn't make it. And Jason will probably rip me now on Twitter, but you watch that, and that's frustrating from a TV perspective when somebody knowingly doesn't even give a crap about making weight. You're a professional athlete, that's what you're getting paid to do. Make the effort. Everybody gets if you're trying to go 20, 30 pounds below where you really should go, which is a whole other story, whether you should be in that weight class to begin with. But at the end of the day, from a TV network perspective, yeah, we're investing in you. And if you're not willing to put in the effort to make weight, I think it gives UFC also a little bit of a look. If you don't make weight 2 or 3 times on our network, is UFC going to put you in a top spot to promote?
You know what I'd love for Andrew to say is something like, in fact, now that I think about it, you miss weight on one of my shows, you're out. And then all of a sudden we could do one of those thug lives because he's got the glasses on. And we just add the little cigarette, right?
We've talked about that before. And
really?
I know Ed is a lot more serious about it. And right now, we have a star athlete in Mackenzie Dern who, Mackenzie needs to make weight coming up. I think, UFC's watching, and Mackenzie's a fantastic and frankly maybe one of the most marketable people on our network right now. So we're real excited to have her come back this summer. But I think, from her own perspective, that's the thing. She doesn't need to work on more jiu-jitsu at this point. She has to work on probably making sure it's 115. Hey, you got to go on a race. No, I don't know her age.
Because I saw Invicta signed like 5 or 6 flyweights, and I thought, I wonder what those young ladies.
I mean, listen. Again,
16 with the parents, Joe Stevenson, that route. Would you ever do that?
I think you have to take a look at what an athletic commission will sanction, and I don't think any U.S. athletic commission is going to let a 16 a while, and I think it wasn't easy. Obviously, Michael is one of the best in the world, so from our perspective, of course we don't want to lose Michael Chiavello, but from a human perspective, I couldn't be happier for him and his family to, that's where he's from. His wife, they've lived in Vegas for, I think, 9 years now. They've been with Access TV.
Really?
I think so. It's been maybe 2009. I'd have to take
Get
a look, but
this.
8 years maybe, 9
You know
years.
how we talked about how us lasting in the sport?
Yeah.
Dude, time flies. Yesterday, it had to do with MMA Today. What's it called? Sorry? MMA History Today. So, yeah, sorry, guys. MMA History Today.
On Twitter.
Yeah, on Twitter, and we've been doing that. And as I was shuffling through a few different things, Michael Jackson came up.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I think Michael Jackson passed away 3 years, 5 years, just because life's happening so fast with this sport.
Mhm.
I mean, we're just constantly cycling through shows, and when we're not doing MMA, it's like you take a step, we breathe, and then we enjoy family time or just relaxation time. But it literally chews us up and spits us out. Can you believe Jackson passed away in 2009?
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that.
There you go.
That's 8 years ago.
It's a long time ago.
I remember talking about it on this show, and I remember it being in the studio, and I couldn't believe it. Wow. I mean, like, seriously, that's shocking. So now that you say it, it could be that Chauvel's been here 9 years.
I think off the top of my head it was 2009, but it could have been earlier. Because we were working with him on K1, which we were taking from Japan, and then we brought him into the fold here at Access TV. So again, one of the greatest announcers I think in the history of our sport. And so we're but from, like I said, a human perspective, you can't be happier. Having lived in Vegas myself on and off for 25 years, Vegas is a tough city, and bringing up his kids, I think it's probably a great move for him and his family, to go back to be around his own family, to help bring up the children and to go to school there. I'm sure he's more than excited, and I recommend you guys get him on the show before he leaves.
Definitely.
I definitely can't speak for Michael. I could just speak from our perspective that we've loved having him, and he's the best in the world.
Have you guys already thought about the replacement, or is that already locked in? Or
we're getting there. We should have an announcement pretty soon. So we've been definitely, obviously knowing this was coming, we should have something soon. I
When's
think
his last show? I know this is his last CES show, but when's his last show?
I think it's the first show of June. I think that might be the last show. I think he said final few weeks in his tweet, but I want to say it's June 2nd, right around that time. So it's coming up. This is his last CES show, then a couple more shows, and then Pat again. Pat, to me, there's no better, color guy out there.
I think they made each other better.
Yeah, without a doubt. And, you take a look, and it's not an easy role. People always think, you could throw any fighter into that spot, and they're great. But, when you take a look at what Pat does there and Josh Barnett does on New Japan Pro Wrestling, they're both such unique talents and the ability to make the show better from that position. Because, normally it's like, what do you do from here? Well, Pat adds so much more than that to the show. Mm-hmm. And, I think he's a special talent as well.
Do you think we'll get along with Pat, George? Do you think play calling will be easier?
I don't think you guys should talk politics with Pat. I don't think that'll go well for you guys.
You know what's funny?
You know what's crazy is we can't see his eyes and see if he rolled them in the back of his head or not.
This is like playing poker here in Vegas. I got my poker shades on.
You know what's funny is watching anybody that follows Gerald Harris, former UFC welterweight and middleweight, and I think he wanted to be a part of this season, so I know he's not retired, but he likes to post conversational topics. And when it does steer towards politics, Pat Miletich gets in there. And so there's some left and right, and it goes back and forth. And but I'll give it up. They respect each other. They make their points. And then there's others that are maybe Gerald's friends or fans of Pat or who knows what that chime in and maybe push the limits. But you can literally count on it almost once a week. And then there's other topics where obviously everyone's in agreement, like, boy, you can't let your kids play outside, whatever. But for the most part, if there is something that has to do with the wall,
that's it. No matter which side you're on, half the country thinks something different. So, just got to be somewhat respectful because they believe it as much as you believe your position. So,
allow us
from it was
job,
unbelievable.
wasn't
it? He took some jabs early on too. I watched that show. He's like, I've called WrestleMania. There's nothing bigger than this one today, and I was like, oh, go Morrow. I love Morrow. He's so good.
So is it Morrow?
I'm not announcing
you're
anything.
Not nothing?
No,
Okay.
No. It's all about Michael for now. It's about Michael, and Michael has, again, you give us 8 and 9 years at Access TV, we're not going to take away anything at this point. This is all Michael's time, and he's done such an unbelievable job, and make sure you watch him tonight with CES live from Rhode Island.
We definitely
9
have
Eastern.
to get Chavello in here.
A question.
You guys will. He's a local. You got to bring him in.
Absolutely, yeah.
Get him before he goes.
A question that we got, and the way they phrased it, but based on what you've told us, it seems like everything's going well.
Yeah.
But they basically asked, he's not going to get Goldberg, is he? Have you guys thought about what the send-off will be? Will it be some kind of package?
I had talked to you guys about that. I thought that was disrespectful from the UFC, what they did with Goldberg. And I don't understand why. I mean, I can't understand why you have a guy there for that long that had done as much. And again, I don't work there. Maybe he had told, maybe he made mama jokes about Lorenzo's mama or, family. But I think Goldberg was always respectful.
Allow me to chime in.
Yes.
Because Frank Trigg and I had a discussion.
Yeah.
He said, listen, it wasn't a retirement. All right, they basically just decided to part ways, but they decided that in early December.
Yep.
And his last show was it UFC 206?
Yeah.
At the end of December. So it wasn't like, what'd you say about my mama? You're fired. No. It was obviously like, hey, listen, we're going to go in another direction, but please finish out these fights. So obviously there was a good standing.
No,
now
that's my point.
I get what Trigg's saying, because I made the comparison of Vern Lundquist with CBS, and when he called his last football fight show, whatever, football game, they brought him into the booth during the pregame, and they kind of had like a nice send off and a lot of things to say. Well, that was a retirement, so that was, that's where Trig and I were discussing it. But the one thing I can say is the UFC's always been a little bit out of the box. I mean, they've had their pillars, Buffer, Rogan, Goldberg. There's been a lot of people where they've done a lot of things, again, outside the box. So it wasn't really, I mean, we weren't really talking traditional TV. I really feel like this is a voice that's tied to a lot of great moments. And because there wasn't the old "you're fired," then I think they could have done something or allowed Joe Rogan to do something. I think Joe has publicly said that that just wasn't going to happen. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with you, man. I think they blew it, and I think the UFC could have done it because they call their own shots.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was a mistake because I remember when Dana said, hey, we're going to be bringing somebody in new. I think it was on the TMZ interview or somewhere months before. And then, Goldberg stuck around for 3 or 4 months, never said a bad thing online, never said a bad thing. He was a dutiful, independent contractor doing his, shows, always showing up, doing a great job. And so, giving a guy 30 seconds or a minute send-off video of his best moments, now anybody
Right.
else who says, hey, Goldberg worked there for X number of years, that's the way he was treated on the way out the door. I mean, just what does it make you think of your employer at that point? And again, maybe I'll never work for UFC saying such things in my life, just do it that way because I just think that was a little disrespectful.
One more thing here. Speaking of Rogan, he had made a comment about the matchmaking at a recent LFA show.
Yeah.
You saw that and chimed in.
On an MMA show, but I've been watching boxing since I was born. I would watch
Fight parlay. Jesus, I'm going back. You can find the parlay calculator, or you can just Google parlay calculator. You put your bet amount, and then you put the lines that you have through your website where it's legal. You're rookie. Or if you can legally place a wager like we can here in Nevada, you go up to the board and ask them for their current odds, and that's that. So I believe Andrade has a skill set that may trouble Jędrzejczyk. That's my dog.
Okay.
All right. I think Dos Santos has a good shot against Miocic, but I have a ton of respect for Miocic. My 2016 Fighter of the Year. He's really improved since then. I think I'm just going to stay away and, like you said, Goes, pop open a beer and just enjoy the fight.
Let's have fun.
But this one with Andrade, she came down from 35. She said another thing very interesting during Embedded. I'm not afraid to get hit. So I think she took her time with the division. She didn't rush into it. A lot of people wanted to put her into a jab, a teep kick. He's very dynamic, and he could very well catch Frankie. It's not like Frankie's never been wobbled or knocked down or anything like that. He has been. But Frankie's very cerebral, and I think at some point he's either going to catch a leg or he's just going to get a well-timed takedown, and then that ground and pound's pretty vicious. He's really turned it on the last few years, starting with our good friend Cub Swanson. He took it to him. Obviously took it to BJ Penn. So those are my three picks. Frankie Edgar at -135, George Masvidal at -130, Jessica Andrade plus 150. What does it pay, George? $100 pays $669. So $20 would pay 1/5 of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going with just 100 pays $669, and actually I can just put in the 20 here and get the exact number. 20 will pay me 100. Yeah, 100 pays 20 to 1. So he's got here. That's -135. He's got Poirier. I haven't given those odds, but he's -120. So again, close to a pick. Jessica Andrade being the underdog. Stipe Miocic. And the last one, the one I don't know, is Benitez. What are Benitez's odds? They don't have them.
-150.
Yeah, I could see that. All right. So 100 gets you 2,000. Wow. All right.
Yeah.
They taught Andy Griffith how to whistle. Here are Gorgeous George and Goes.
Today we'll by Johny Hendricks. He'll give his Matt moment. And John Morgan. I've been trying to corral this guy all week. It's his town, the Big D. That's where the UFC is on Saturday for UFC 211. He'll call in. We'll ask him a couple quick questions and then let him be, because he's one of our guys out there hustling. So keep it locked on MMAjunkie throughout the weekend. All right, Goes, you got your parlay ready?
Yeah, it's a little bit of, I guess, opposite of yours, George, when we talk about Joanna Jędrzejczyk and Jessica Andrade. I feel like we've broken down this fight a million times this week, but I just feel like the straight punches are going to beat the looping punches.
You like Joanna?
I like Joanna.
All right, so let me punch her in at -180. All right.
And Jessica Andrade, you're right. She has that crazy pace, but it's always been for 3 rounds. Can she do it for 5 rounds?
Right.
I think that's where Claudia Gadelha kept running into that problem, where she couldn't get it going for 5 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Joanna will do what Joanna does. All she does is win, right? So I got her.
Okay.
And then I'm going to go with Masvidal. However, I'm not really slamming my fist on the table. I just feel like Damian, at one point we're going to get this fight where I think overnight he just gets a little old. I don't know that he's fully recovered from that yet.
All right, your $100 parlay, because you have 3 favorites, doesn't pay as much. Normally they pay 6-1, which would be 600. Yours is going to pay 404.
Mm-hmm.
Your 20 would pay about $80.
That's boring.
So yeah, but that's what happens when you do have favorites. They're not big favorites, but you can either do 20 to win 80 or 100 to win 400. If you take Goza's parlay of Joanna Jędrzejczyk, George Masvidal, and Dustin Poirier. All right, we'll play around more with this when we come back. We'll also take your calls, 866-522-2846. We got Andrew Simon, the CEO of Access TV Fights, here in studio with us. Don't forget, CES 44 tonight on Access TV at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. That's Channel 340 if you have DirecTV like us. We'll be right back.
Fever, Las Vegas turning day into night time, turning night into daytime. If you see it
right, here we go. It's the second hour of the MMA Junkie Radio Show. Shout out to Doug Matthews from Carolina, MMAjunkie from Australia. He's checking in. Rob Robertson as well. Flavio Gottman, Kazem Anwar watching from Toronto. Andrew Simon is here in the studio with us. The best card the UFC's produced this year.
I think so.
Yeah,
At least from a even
from
matchup
what it
perspective.
looks,
Yeah.
Now we
No
got to
doubt.
let them fight it out, and then we can obviously judge it from there. But
Yeah.
those are some big names, and like you said, for one, two title fights, but all these odds are reflecting that.
Yeah. We're not, none of us are going to get all 8 of these right, or on the sheet. It would be pretty.
Well, you
it'd
and
be
I
pretty
are
tough.
against each other, so
Yeah.
one of us is.
One of us will
automatically-
win at least 2 or 3, somewhere in that range, right?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah,
And I
good
have
way
to
look
correct
at
you.
it.
It's not Michael Chavello's last show
Oh,
ever.
sorry,
it's
with
his last
CES.
CES
Yeah.
show, just so, we get that straight.
Yeah, you're
You
right.
know-
And by
You
the
know
way,
us, damn media.
False news, George.
I
False
do get
news.
asked this a lot.
Big.
Any chance of a Inside MMA comeback or anything like that, or something similar? A lot of people miss it. It had its 10-year run, and
Yeah, we're not in any plans right now to bring
Okay.
Inside MMA back. I mean, I think it suit the purpose during its run, and we miss obviously the personalities involved were over the top and great, and we miss Boss and obviously Kenny and Ron working on that, and then Morrow later. I think it was an incredible show. I just think in today's environment, it's kind of the same thing of news in general. How do you consume it, and are you going to wait a week to hear your news? And I think the format itself kind of ran its course, but maybe we'll come back with something new that doesn't doesn't get as dated as quickly.
I actually got hit up a few times, George, where people go, "You're the guy that was on Inside MMA," versus "You're the MMA Junkie Radio guy."
There you
really?
go.
Yeah,
That's
at least
awesome.
like 3 or 4 times.
that's cool.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
very cool.
Aaron from Minnesota, start things off here in the second hour. What's up, bud?
Hey, what's up, guys? Andrew, it's cool seeing you in the studio. You've been a friend of the show for such a long time. It's always good to see you in there, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, here's what I'm curious about, because we've seen your channel and the shows on your channel go through a transition year after year. You guys, I remember when you were probably the number one source of, like, guys going into the UFC, and you still might be, but I feel like the UFC has really changed just their format, where they groom a lot of guys at a younger stage in their career. And I'm just curious how that has affected the way that you guys run your shows and your channel, and how hard has that been? I'll take it off air.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I actually think it's the opposite. More than ever, we're sending more people to the UFC now than we used to. I would say in the old days, we were doing a lot of shows from Japan where maybe we had a lot of the top 10 talent. And now today, I believe Legacy and RFA, which combined to be LFA, sent 120 fighters over the last 2 years to the UFC. And LFA is the only promotion out there using the Octagon and doing 30 fights a year specifically to develop fighters to go to the UFC and Bellator. So I think they're more the AAA, the place that champions are being bred than ever before. So I do think we're sending more people today than ever. I think, you take a look at even the women's division.
Calvillo.
No doubt her pedigree is unparalleled, I think, at the UFC for her championships in jiu-jitsu, and she's unbelievable. And so it's just a matter of putting it all together for MMA. So
But her next fight will be under
LFA.
LFA, right?
Yep, it's coming
Yeah,
up this
okay.
summer. Yeah, and I don't know if it's June or July. I have to take a look, but she's going to be fighting this summer. And I know she has a tournament coming up in Long Beach too
I
next
thought she
month.
wanted to get away from that, though.
She just competed, but she missed weight there. It was
Yeah,
another
but I
high
thought that was
profile.
one of the reasons that she was saying, I can't really get the weight down if I'm doing them both, that sort of thing.
She has
Right.
something coming up. I want to say the end of June. Right, I think it's the end of June. She has a tournament in Long Beach coming up, I think. So, again, or maybe it's the end of this month. I have to take a look. But, again, I think
Bad Boy has been a little bit absent from the program, which explains the dip in ratings. But since we got a TV guy in the studio, I kind of want to run that past him. I know my questions aren't as compelling to a guy like John McCarthy. Let's give it an example. What would happen if zombies attacked downtown Santa Monica, guys? But what I do want to ask your in-studio guests, listen, I'm a big fan of. And what he has done in television and what he has done in every aspect of communication is just incredible. But the one question I have for him is, when is he going to take his creation and move it to Access TV? Why aren't The Simpsons on Access TV? I mean, this guy created them. Why are we watching them on Fox?
I believe he's Access TV.
As well. Hello, Darren.
Hi, in episode 12 of The Simpsons, did you mean for Bart to have that problem with Homer? And
Oh my
choking
God!
him in the show
This is in conjunction with the Clearwater Batch Boys call. Wow, my God, the coincidence. Now let's talk to Marco and Waco. What's up, Marco?
Marco from Waco Road. I don't want to talk about The Simpsons, though. No, oh yeah. That's a good troll right there from the whatever is right. Hey, Andrew.
Yes, sir.
Andrew, you guys do a really good job on Access TV, and on my part, I get to miss it all because I used to have Time Warner. They became a Spectrum. Now, are you guys talking to Spectrum to get Access TV on there? Because different company, different management. I would love to have access on my system. But I'm not switching to DirecTV because, I'm already knee-deep on my provider.
Well, a couple different things. I'm not sure if we're on Spectrum or not off the top of my head. I know Charter was in there, and we're on Charter, and I think I don't know if they acquired that Time Warner system you're in, or I can't. Every market is different, so it's hard for me to know. But if anybody ever is going, hey, I want to watch a fight this week, how do all that type of stuff. Usually. So
let's talk about the Udo. There's no I heard that he left. I heard that he was injured, but I never heard what was the injury. I was hearing that he was having a rough cut too.
Yeah,
it was a hand injury.
That sucked, man. That sucked. Well,
apparently 2-3 weeks ago he heard it. He went to a doctor, and when he got to Dallas, Texas, he re-injured it. However, Marco, I heard the same thing you did, that he didn't look good at I think it was not the press conference, but what do they call it, the media day, where they basically scrum out. He was just kind of, he looked like he was sucked in, struggling to stand upright, whatever. So a lot of people were speculating the weight, but eventually he put out a statement, said it was a hand injury, apologized. Sergio Pettis will get paid his show up, but that fight's completely off.
Okay, that's cool. Hey, guys, enjoy the fights tonight. Enjoy the fights tomorrow. We'll you guys catch you this week.
Okay, we'll see
Marco.
you. Now, some upcoming shows on Access TV will be, again, tonight, CES 44, Bassett versus Trujillo for the featherweight title. You have Greg Rebello versus Kevin Ray Sears, Jacob Bond versus Sean Soriano. I like watching Soriano fight. I've watched him a few times.
No doubt.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to that one. And then next week, you guys are in Prior Lake, Minnesota at the Mystic Lake Show.
Kind of put together. So kind of a little bit of a rivalry there. I'm not sure where LFA and Legacy will sit on, if presenting tonight or not, but over there from Providence. And Birchfield and Joe and boxing and MMA out there. Everybody knows the Jimmies and what they do out
there. Versus RFA. CES showed an interest.
Yeah. But I'm not going to force.
Well, life will pass me by if I don't open up.
Oh, too. So who knows?
He doesn't care. He wants the money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why Bisping? Why not Diaz? That's bigger money. Probably more winnable. All right, here we go.
You know that scene in Star Wars where Darth Vader tells Luke he's his father? What if I walked in right after with my voice and was like, I'm your Uncle Walter. Can I get a lift home? That'd be crazy, right? Anyway, here Georgian goes.
UFC 211 takes place this weekend, and our writer John Morgan is out there covering the event for us. He joins us now on MMA Junkie Radio, and you can follow him on Twitter at MMAjunkie John. What's up, John? How you doing?
You guys just bumping the club beats today, man. I like it.
Yeah, you know how we do it over here. It's a Friday, so we're chillaxing a little bit. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. It's been a good week, man. It really has. Obviously, most people know. I think this is my hometown. I mean, I've lived in Vegas for going on 10 years now, or whatever. But it's always good to come home. And actually, today is my son's 5th birthday, so got to bring him out here. My wife, my kid, my dog. He came out here and saw my mom and dad, and so it's been cool. I mean, it makes the week that much longer when you don't really get to relax when you get home because you got other things to do. But it's been a cool kind of balance to see the family and cover what looks to be on paper anyway a pretty fantastic fight card.
Happy birthday, Eli.
Yeah, and we already got a taste of the main event, right? Eli versus JDS. Did you see that video?
I saw that. Yeah. John, did you really shift things around? That I saw that on email. Were they able to make it happen?
What's that?
Well, I was the only guy supporting JDS this weekend, but it looked like you may have switched over to my team.
Oh yeah, switched over, man. I was kind of on the fence. I really was as far as my pick went overall. I was really, kind of on the fence either way, man. This main event, it's tough, but man, JDS kind of swayed me there. He picked my kid out of the crowd the other day and spent some time hanging out with him in open workouts and made my kid's day, man. He was smiling from ear to ear, and I thought, man, I better pick JDS now. but it's funny. It wasn't just that. I'm torn on this main event. I mean, Stipe has looked phenomenal, right? I mean, it seems like he's getting better and better every time out, and he's looked incredible his last few fights. But he did get touched up a little bit, you know what I mean? He had some struggles. And you go back and watch that first fight and see the success that JDS had, and then you watch him this week. I mean, you talk to him, you see how his mental game is, you'll see the workouts, how fast he is, how crisp he is. I mean, you think about all the things that are going on at ATT and all the focus that must be going on around there. And I don't know, man. I got a feeling maybe we could be in for a special night from Junior.
Yeah, both guys are very lively. They're joking. They're smiling. I'm watching. I think we're 5 episodes in on Embedded, but I'm just wondering, all right, who's going to turn it on? And these next 36 hours before fight night, it's gonna be important. Arguably, to me, Miocic was the fighter of the year in 2016, but JDS does have the win over Miocic, and JDS did look good in his last fight. So this is, as much of a coin flip as there's out there. Miocic, the money has been coming in on Miocic, minus 160 over Dos Santos' plus 130. But I don't know, man. I'm not even touching it, John. Over here we're parlaying our asses off, but this is the one where all the work's going to be done by then. We're either going to be a little bit richer or a little bit poorer. Come main event time, crack open the beer and just enjoy it.
Well, I agree. I mean, obviously heavyweight MMA is a coin flip half the time anyway, right? I mean, we all say anything can happen, especially in the heavyweight division. But, man, just breaking down this matchup on paper, I really do. I mean, this is one of those fights, I haven't heard anybody come to me and say, John, definitively, I have broken this down, and this is exactly how this fight's going to go, and it can go no other way. It's impossible to do that. But I don't know if they can, go another 5 rounds. They're both saying this one doesn't go 5 rounds. Both of them are predicting early finishes. But hopefully we can get something, even if we don't get 25 minutes, but hopefully we can at least get something that lives up to that first one because it was a lot of fun.
John, Jessica Andrade and Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Joanna's pretty as sure as what we know every time what we're going to get out of her. It's 100%. She puts everything in it. But have you seen the swag that Jessica kind of has this week leading into the fight? And if we have to look at Joanna for any breaks or anything, it'd have to be her being the last one to weigh in and having to pull out the shower curtain. What do you think? What have you been able to read into when you look into their eyes when you talk to them?
Well, I think it's great, and I'll tell you what, I'm really looking forward to the ceremonial weigh-ins this afternoon. It'll be happening here in Dallas in just a couple of hours, but because exactly what you're saying, right? I mean, Joanna, has respect for Jessica. She's mentioned it. They used to share a manager. They've trained a little bit, not extensively, but they've spent some time around each other. And at the meeting, talk about somebody turning it on in the switch and do the the traditional duck down and get in your face and try to intimidate her a little bit, because I mean, listen, I think Joanna is definitely the better fighter. There's a reason she's undefeated. There's a reason I think she's currently the number one pound for pound female in the world. I think she's incredible, but Jessica does have the tools you would think you need to combat that, because I don't think anybody in the division is going to out-technique Joanna Jędrzejczyk over 25 minutes. I don't think you're going to, out-push her pace for 5 rounds. I think what you have to do is you have to touch her, and we've seen her wobble a little bit. And Jessica Andrade has that power. She has that aggression. She's not afraid to move forward. And so I think she has all the tools that you need to be problematic, at least for Joanna. I don't necessarily see her getting it done, but you're right. I mean, the question marks, if they're there around Joanna, which seems bizarre. So I'm kind of anxious to see what she looks like this afternoon and how she carries herself this afternoon, and see if things are changing a little bit and she's getting ready to get down to business.
John, a lot of people are trying to find somebody to take over what Ronda Rousey did for the sport, going down as one of the greatest female athletes of all time. How far away is Joanna from that? Because Jason, our intern, he brought this up this morning. He goes, look, she's won 7 fights. It's been over top girls. It's not like we're all saying Joanna's ducking this person or ducking that person. What does she need to do to get to that point?
Man, that's tough. Obviously, Ronda Rousey had the blonde girl thing going. I mean, this is a foreign girl at the end of the day, Polish chick. So I don't know if she'll necessarily get that same, California girl support that everybody did, from the mainstream media. But that said, the fact that she's here in the States now, I think that means a lot. She's going to be a lot more accessible, to media. Obviously, the UFC will probably be going out of their way to use her a lot more, assuming that she's victorious here, because she does have a fun style. I mean, I would say that her style is probably even more fan-friendly than Ronda Rousey's was. I mean, the casual fan likes to see two people just go in there and bang, and that's what she does, right? And she does great in interviews, man. I mean, even though, it's her second language, she does, always carry herself with a little bit of swagger, a little bit of attitude, but, it's an endearing kind of swagger and attitude. I think Ronda actually turned some people off, especially later in her career, with the way she handled herself and her confidence and her brashness and almost cockiness. I mean, Joanna walks that fine line very well. She definitely thinks she's the best, but she talks about remaining humble and working hard and having respect and all those things. So, I think it'll be tough to match Ronda, but that's like saying, who's the next Conor McGregor? Like, oh, my God, I mean, you're talking about such an astronomical level, it's difficult to match that. But I do think there is some potential for her star to grow, especially if she does, move to 125 like she says she might. She says she might, try to do both titles simultaneously, bounce back and forth between the divisions. Like I said, the fact that she is here in the States now, I think you're going to see that push. And I'll say, we had an awesome open workout here in Dallas yesterday. It was just the main and the co-main that were there, but, Dallas packed it. There were a couple hundred fans there, and they were rowdy. I got to say, Joanna got, one of the biggest welcomes out of all 4 of those athletes. So I do feel like her star is growing a little bit and is primed to get even greater.
We're also joined by Access TV Fight CEO Andrew Simon. He's our guest co-host for the day. He's got a question for you, John.
Hey, John. So you take a look at Joanna and you say, hey, is she like a Demetrius, though? Will she be able to sell, or is she in that place where she's one of the best that people don't tune in, whereas they pay more attention to the it factor like a Paige Van Zandt? Is it, will more people in the world know Paige, or do they know Joanna today, and what's your thoughts on all that?
Such a great question. I was actually just kind of contemplating the same thing myself this weekend, because it is nuts. I mean, it's the 2 smallest athletes, right? I mean, and you hate to say it's as simple as, being the tiny athlete. But I mean, how many times have we heard Demetrius Johnson, people talking about him and saying, well, I could kick that guy's ass. It's like, well, no, you couldn't. You're an idiot. But, it just turns the casual fan off to think that, it doesn't look like a monster on the poster, So will Joanna suffer that same bit? I don't know, possibly so. But I think what you said, too, I mean, yeah, how many more people know Paige Van Zandt right now? And God bless Paige, but she is not on Joanna's level. That would be a complete mismatch. But, she's had that mainstream crossover. She's had the Dancing with the Stars appearance, the reality TV appearance. So, there's all.
You take the whereas the FS1 or FX in this case might have 1.5 million. So, you might get more exposure when you fight on the undercard in a scenario like this than on the pay-per-view. So it's just always interesting that, if you're in the main event or co-main and you're getting a rev share of the pay-per-view buy, that's one piece. But if you're looking for pure exposure, TV probably is a better place to be.
I agree. Uriah Faber was the first guy that I ever heard really embrace that approach to it, and I think it's so correct. I mean, I think everybody thinks the pinnacle is being on pay-per-view. And, yeah, if you're getting shares, if you're getting some money off those points, then it's fantastic. But as you said, if you're not, then who cares if you're on the pay-per-view? If you're not getting any points off it, what do you care? Be on TV where you can get the bigger audience, more eyeballs on your personal brand, more people to know you. He was the first guy I ever really heard, verbalize that as a fighter and buy into it. And I'm like, you know what? You're 100% right with that. So it is interesting.
John, we've covered Maya Masvidal to death, Edgar Rodriguez, and, of course, we just did co-main and main with you. But one fight that's getting left out, if you can just chime in quickly, Krzysztof Jotko versus David Branch. Tell us just a little bit about this fight and how you see it unfolding, who your pick is.
It's an interesting fight. Here's the thing is that, Jotko has an impressive record, and I think he is kind of undervalued. But, he hasn't struck me as a world beater just yet. Meanwhile, David Branch kind of reinvented himself in World Series of Fighting. Obviously, the two-belt title holder, he's brimming with confidence. Now, I did hear something interesting. I tried to interview David Branch this week, and we just kept missing each other. But his manager, Ali Abdelaziz, actually told me that he was actually briefly off the card. There was some medical issues that it ended up being basically just a misread test. They flew out to Vegas and got these tests, looked at and cleared up, that sort of thing. But here's a guy that worked his way back to the UFC, did amazing. He's taking it, coming back. And what did that do to his focus a week out, 10 days out? So I'm really intrigued by this fight. I honestly have been really impressed by David Branch in World Series. Now, not every, fight that he had was incredibly exciting, but he was very effective, and he has an incredible win streak going. So I'm kind of, curious about this fight. I know a lot of people hate the fact that that's the one that got moved up to the pay-per-view, but, I think they were committed to keeping Eddie Alvarez and Dustin Poirier on FX. So I'm curious. What I'm really curious is watching David Branch because he reinvented himself in World Series, and really I've enjoyed talking to him during his time there and kind of getting into his head a little bit, and I'm anxious to see if that translates back to the UFC.
All right, John. Well, great work out there throughout the week, and we'll catch up with you next week. I'm sure it's going to be a great show. I can already tell, man, the matchups are great. The fighters are weighed in, and it's now just a matter of time and letting them do their thing.
Yeah, a lot of good fights, man. I'm looking forward to it. You guys take it easy.
All right, you too. Follow John on Twitter at MMAjunkie John. He will be handling the play-by-play for us out there in Dallas, Texas for UFC 211. All right, we're going to go from one guest to another. Johny Hendricks is going to join us in. I invite you all to go to www.dollarmer.com to learn more about Dollarmer Sports Services and to follow along during this next segment where we reveal this week's Matt Moment contest winner. Johny Hendricks joining us now on the hotline. What's up, Johnny? How you doing?
Doing good, man. Doing awesome. Just got done lifting. It's hard to hold up the phone.
What'd you work on? What'd you do today?
I get the bulk of what I've been focusing on. More energy. I was able to bounce around, able to move forward.
In with us every week. Not only are we congratulating the Matt Moment winner every week here, we're also talking to him as he prepares to battle Tim Boetsch at UFC Fight Night 112, and that takes place on June 25th. So you're about halfway through your camp now, Johnny. Feeling good?
Oh, yeah. Like I said, this fight camp has been rolling pretty smoothly for me. I'm pretty excited about it. I just can't wait to see what these next 6 weeks hold.
Yeah. I saw on Twitter at Johny Hendricks that your Matt Moment has to do with the Hector Lombard fight. Talk about that, your Matt Moment for this week.
Realistically, it was, you move up in weight class. There's a lot of negative stuff that happens with that, with me moving up, and me be able to get back out there, not really focus on anything but that fight at that moment, and being able to go in there and work like I know I can. You know what I'm saying? And that's really my Matt Moment, was just being able to say, hey, all right, we got to forget the past. and we got to move forward, you know. And that was my Matt moment.
Goes, you said you had a Matt moment for this week.
Yeah, mine actually has to do with professional wrestling.
Oh, okay.
At the old R1 gym with Frank Trigg.
All right.
A lot of people don't know this, but John Cena used to train there.
Yeah.
And we were having
and
a
so did Samoa Joe.
Yeah, we were having a conversation about Trigg and training him a little bit, and I was just maybe kind of making fun of it a little bit as far as like what the bumps are really like versus MMA. And he goes, "That's funny. Why don't you get up on that top rope and just do like a elbow drop?" And I decided, sure. And I did it, and wow, did I learn a lesson. That mat is unforgiving, George. In pro wrestling, those bumps are very brutal, and I just remember walking out of there going, my entire thought process of what professional wrestlers go through just in training completely flipped that day.
Yeah, because when you land on someone, obviously they're absorbing a little bit of the impact, but a lot of times in pro wrestling there's the move where they roll out. You land on the mat, and of course now you're in pain, but everybody's thinking, come on, you're landing on a soft mat, can't be that bad. Oh yeah, you better learn how to land, because it's all that impact spread out throughout your body, you know, the neck, the spine, something's getting tweaked along the way.
My body was not happy.
All right, Johnny, well, we're at the moment here. We're going to announce the Matt Moment winner for this week. It is at Ryan Grusmeyer. He entered via Twitter. And he was going to win a Johny Hendricks signed miniature octagon. It's a mat displayed in a shadow box frame. So congratulations to Ryan Grusmeyer. He accomplished 100 wins, his 100th career wrestling match. How about that, Johnny?
I know, that's pretty awesome. You know, whenever people are doing that kind of stuff, that they fight it out and they keep the grind, you know, and you know, to hit that 100 mark is pretty impressive. I'm super proud of him, and keep it up.
How many? I know a lot of the wrestlers remember their stats. How many wins did you have in high school, and how many wins did you have in college? And if you don't know exactly, maybe take a guess.
So I think I had 114 in high school, and I think I had 114 in college.
Wow.
I think I was the exact same. I think I had almost the exact same losses as well.
So that 100 mark is a nice benchmark for any wrestler out there.
Yeah, anytime you can hit that 100 mark, you know you're doing something right. You know what I mean? In your career, you know, if that's middle school, high school, whatever it might be, if you hit that 100 mark, you're training right. You're you know what I mean? You're dieting right. Everything is working the way that it should.
Now, if you want to enter this contest, use the hashtag MattMoment and contest and tag in Dolomer. You can do it via Instagram at DolomerMats and Johny Hendricks at Johny Hendricks. You can do it on Twitter at Dolomer and at Johny Hendricks, or like them on Facebook, Dolomer Sports Services and Johny Hendricks. And what you want to do is write a supportive message to Johnny via the social media platform that you choose as he prepares to battle Tim Boach at UFC Fight Night 112 on June 25th. Now, the grand prize is an all-expenses-paid trip to Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, for a VIP experience with former UFC welterweight champion Johnny Big Rig Hendricks. All the winners will receive the meet and greet and a one-on-one training session with Johnny, along with some signed and autographed memorabilia. So that's a big prize, and I'm sure, Johnny, you can't wait to meet that grand prize winner here at the end of the contest.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. It's you know, they're going to have a fun day. I'm going to make sure of that.
Next week, we'll reveal another Matt Moment winner with Johnny. We'll catch up and see how his week of training went. Johnny, in the meantime, enjoy your weekend. I'm pretty sure you're going to be out there or at the fights is what I was seeing, right?
Yeah, you know what? Well, I'm going to be doing, I don't know if I'm going to go to the fights, but I will be around that area. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I know you're doing, I think, a couple of viewings or something like that, or autograph signings. I think Toyota of Irving is one that's popping up here, so have fun out there. And hopefully, I mean, come on, you're a former champion. I'm sure you can score a ticket. Get on out there and enjoy the fights, my man.
Yeah, I understand that. Trust me.
All right, brother. Thanks for the time.
Hey, y'all have a wonderful day.
You too. All right, we'll see you. All right, folks, we're going to take our last break here. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93, and we have Access TV Fight CEO Andrew Simon with us. We'll be right back. Stay close.
Do what they say, and your life will be a lot better. Here are Gorgeous and Goes.
The most influential rock band of all time is getting their own channel. SiriusXM proudly announces the Beatles channel here at the Fab 4 24/7 on the band's one and only official channel, SiriusXM Channel 18. Lock it in right now. The Beatles channel launches exclusively on SiriusXM May 18th. For more information, visit SiriusXM.com/Beatles. Also, that meet and greet with Johny Hendricks, it's at the Toyota of Irving, Texas, 11. Twitter, he's been retweeting it. There will be some free tickets that are going to be given away. So if you're looking to score some tickets, there's an opportunity right there. Follow Johnny on Twitter at Johny Hendricks. Want to thank all of our guests for the week. I like getting this out of the way. That way we can just cruise all the way to the finish line and not have to sweat it out. Edson Barbosa and Alex Davis visiting the studio. Junior Dos Santos headlining the UFC 211 card as he tries to get his belt back against Stipe Miocic. Zach Makovsky fighting out there in Vienna, Austria. He's got a fight coming up. Former UFC flyweight, former RFA bantamweight champ. That's right. He won the bantamweight and then eventually went to flyweight. He's out there. Jessica I. She's got a lot of things going on. First, she's got a fight this summer happening against Aspen Ladd, who comes up from Invicta. Came through tough enough. And then she's looking to maybe get into that house. It is official. The UFC's next season of The Ultimate Fighter will feature the women's flyweight division. 16 young ladies will battle it out there, and then eventually someone will be crowned the inaugural champion. Ryan Couture co-hosted on Wednesday. Mike Dolce co-hosted yesterday. Andrew Simon co-hosting today. Johny Hendricks popping in for his normal weekly check-in and to announce the Matt Moment contest winner and, of course, John Morgan. Goes, you had a question for Andrew Simon, and then Jason B will do his thing. He's chilling with us. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you.
Welcome, Jason.
Thank you.
Again. There we go. Mr. Simon, you're very good at predicting the future. Up Sling TV, and I don't TV anymore. Television, and what's the future of pay-per-view in the next 2 years?
Man, you're bringing up a lot. I mean, I don't know our time allotment, but clearly the world is changing on cable. You saw ESPN, was down 8 to 10 million subs because their channel is so expensive, and they just took out about 100 on-air talent recently as they're trying to save some money to make up for that lack of cable sub fees. So what you're seeing in this next generation really are people not willing to spend for 150 channels in that $100, $200 range a month. So you're starting to see these over-the-top services, which means you get the TV over the internet versus a cable or satellite, and being able to take it. I can watch, Access TV Live on service as well. So you're seeing all these different ways to watch, and it's not where you can choose whatever channel you want yet, but they're making packages that, it was unheard of 3 years ago that you can get cable TV without ESPN, and now you can, and now you're seeing different packages and different abilities. What it will mean is some channels will go away. You're seeing a realignment at Viacom where I think they went from 13 channels down to 7. They're getting rid of different channels. They're rebranding Spike to be Paramount TV. You're going to see a lot of consolidation because you really can't afford to have a fringe channel if it doesn't have the distribution to pay for the content on your channel. So lots of deal making happening, lots of things happening there. So you're going to continue to see a little bit more of these over-the-top services and taking your content with you wherever you want. On the pay-per-view side, I think WWE Network was ahead of their time a little bit in doing that $10 a month and having you watch the pay-per-views. Now you're more engaged with their product. Most people wouldn't buy 12 WWE pay-per-views a year, but if you're getting them all for free or $9.99 a month included, you're much more apt to do that.
And they're at 1.5 million subscribers.
Yeah,
right?
1.6. 1.6.
Crazy.
And again, in the early days, they took a big
number.
Well, they took a big hit on pay-per-view, and the stock went down, and now it's coming back. And again, my thought always was they should have left WrestleMania out of that, or during the WrestleMania month, it was $20 a month. Just that 1 month, you still would be able to get it.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would cancel if on the WrestleMania month it went to $19.99. If I was working over there, that'd be my recommendation. On the UFC side, they're holding on to that pay-per-view revenue because, they're still able to get it in certain circumstances, but you're not seeing a lot of blowout numbers this year.
Can I stop you for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
How about Canelo and Chavez going over $1 million?
Yeah.
So Canelo may be our next boxing star, and now him versus Triple G That's going to be a good one. Sorry.
That's going to be a good one. And boxing has that loyal market, too, you know, that'll tune in. And I think that's what you're starting to see. For the big events, you can still pull off a pay-per-view. But for the average events, it's getting very difficult. I love this card this weekend. I don't think it's going to be a particularly great buy rate. My 2 cents worth. I think
that's fair because those champions aren't sellers just yet.
Right. I mean, so if they do 400,000 or 375, that's great. But if a Conor does $1.2 million for you or $1.3 million, you'd much rather have a Conor fight. You wanted a Ronda. You wanted a Brock Lesnar. Again, you know, you have to have that name that's going to spur you because, you know, we're all doing okay in life. I don't like giving away $60 to $100 for one night that I can kind of find. It's getting harder and harder to get the average fan to pay for a pay-per-view. So I do think that model will continue to decline over time.
I also think they're not going to obviously break $1 million. $500,000 would be a great number. I don't think they'll get there, but I like the 400 number. But I think they're watching that Yair fight could be big, you know, because if Yair beats Edgar, I mean, that's a veteran, a former champion, putting over what could be all Mexican star. I just talked about Canelo and what he did in boxing. I think they're watching Masvidal because there's something to Masvidal coming through the streets, and if he can get past Maya and now he's talking things up a little bit more, you know, he's wearing all black. He says he's going to a funeral. You know, he's got some swag. I just don't know I don't know why the UFC's late to the party with this guy because I'm not saying he could have followed Kimbo because that's the same route Kimbo took, but still, it's taken them a while to warm up there. And then, of course, Joanna, you know, depending on what she does, if she were to come out ahead, if she can be a little gangsta, maybe, you know, maybe start the process of trying to replace Ronda. Still a ways to go, but maybe that might be the female. So lots of things to watch there. Andrew, what's the toughest decision you've ever had to make on a live fight card? All right, let me throw a couple scenarios your way. That way your head can spin. But like, has there ever been like? I mean, you guys are having an incredible year when it comes to knockouts. But obviously, I know a lot of times when that happens, the directors are talking, you know, to the announcers, and sometimes there's delays. But whether it's like event coverage going past a certain hour, not showing something, you know, that, you know, too bloody, too gruesome, or any last minute, have you ever had to make those types of decisions?
I think the worst or hardest decision I ever had, I think it was a legacy show. Maybe 2-3 years ago, we were in the middle of a show, 2-3 fights in, and the Texas Commission stopped the show midway through, and we're on live TV. And they stopped the show because I believe the commission saw somebody in the crowd had a bottle of beer or 2 bottles, and they didn't allow to have bottles of beer. You had to have it in a cup. And they literally stopped our show for 8 to 12 minutes from letting fighters come out, and we're just, you know, what the F's going on? They're like, bottle of beer. You're like, you're gonna stop a live TV show because somebody's got, well, that's in the rule book, commission line number 564, and we're like, it's a live show. We'll take. So I actually went through the crowd and gave everybody $10. I saw 3 bottles of beer. I said, "Could I buy your beer for $10?" You know, and I actually went through and gave guys money to take their beer away. And what happened was they had a shift change at the arena, and the person who was working the bar at the arena, instead of pouring it in a cup, gave it. So it wasn't like people were throwing bottles or sneaking them in. It was the arena mistakenly sold a bottle of beer versus pouring it, and the commission stopped our show. And you know, you're like, what? Really? You're putting on an event, you're paying to be here, and there's not anything bad happening. It just the guy looked in the crowd and happened to see a bottle of beer and wanted to stop the show. And that was probably the worst moment. I was, you know, because it's like, what do? You know, you
haven't prepared for that one.
Yeah, and it's like something that's just so outrageous. You're like, this is such a small issue. It's not like people are throwing bottles. I get in the grand scheme, you don't want bottles being thrown around an arena, but it wasn't like it, you know, it wasn't something that couldn't have been dealt with quickly and easily, and that's what we did.
What'd that cost you?
$30.
$30.
How far?
I charge Mark for it. I charge Mark.
Could they have gone? Nah. How about 50? Like, how far would you have gone?
Well, I mean, at that point, you know, again, people generally get it. If you know, you just say, "Hey, listen, I mean, you know, they're stopping the show because you're not supposed to have a bottle," and the guy's like, "I got it at the bar." I go, "How much was it? I'll pay you double for it," and people usually will be okay with it. You know?
Jason B., we got 2 minutes. Tell us what happened in MMA history today. Great story, Andrew.
12 years ago, on May 12, 2005, a young man named Jose Aldo earned his 4th victory when he TKO'd Artiano Silva Barboza with a series of socket kicks only 20 seconds in to the first round.
Really?
And during that time,
20 seconds,
he started his career 7-0 all fights finishing in the first round via KO or submission.
Yeah, I was looking at his record. He had taken a loss. I guess the next fight would be his loss, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he took a loss, submission, and then eventually the Conor loss. But other than that, he's had an outstanding career.
Man, I wish he got to fight Conor again. You know,
too.
I do.
Well, Jose's teased going up to 55 many times. Here's his chance. Because it sounds like if you bring up the name Conor McGregor, he just spews venom. Like, I got to get that one back. Now, he's got the Holloway fight. He's kind of beaten a lot of people other than McGregor. But as much as we like Nate versus Conor, I think there's a few other fights out there for him. Don't discount Jose going up to 55. It won't pay Conor as much as Diaz will, but Conor, even though he can make a ton of money, the one thing I'll still say is I think he has some more fights left. He just loves the fight. He doesn't care about acting. He turns down scripts, things like that. They pay him sometimes to advertise or whatever, but he just loves the fight. So I think he still has a few more of those left, even if he fights Floyd Mayweather. Because like you said, none to lose. Thank you so much for doing the show today.
Appreciate being here, guys. As
Jason
always.
B., great job as always.
Thank you, sir.
At MMA History Today is the Twitter handle.
Twitter and Instagram. Go ahead and follow them.
Those guys are solid. I saw them tweet that they're working with us.
Yeah.
So shout out to those guys. Folks, enjoy UFC 211 this weekend and CES 44 tonight on Access TV, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Keep it locked on MMA Junkie throughout the weekend. All right, folks, we are out of here. Go out there and be champions.
I'm gonna keep on the run. I'm gonna have me some fun. It cost me my very last dime.